Hey everyone, I am really excited to talk to you today about our positive behaviour support program, in particular around how we use a collaborative approach and we work with people to support the achievement of great outcomes for participants. Before we jump into the presentation, I'd just like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which our sites are held and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging, thanking Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders for their continued connection to land, waters and community and acknowledging the important role they play within our communities. At Everyday Independence, before we start everything, we always talk about our why. And our why is that we strive every day to lead and support individuals, their families, communities, and our nation to become a global leader for inclusion. And I think this is particularly important when we talk about our presentation today, because often people who have significant challenging behaviours or behaviours of concern, it can often impact on their quality of life, but it also means they're not often included in everyday activities and in everyday community occupations. I'm now going to just talk about the panel and who's going to be going through this presentation today. So my name's Harley. I'm an occupational therapist and a behaviour support practitioner, and I'm the Victorian, South Australian and Tasmanian state lead. I'm also still on the tools supporting participants, and I think that's probably my favourite part of my role. I'm now going to just introduce Alice, who is a behaviour support practitioner and one of our advanced therapy mentors. Alice has had such an amazing impact with participants, but she's also having great impact in growing our next layer of behaviour support practitioners all across the country. And we're fortunate to have a special guest here today in Tracy. Tracy is from APM Futures and is the engagement manager. And she's going to describe and talk to you about how their service collaborates with participants and creates good outcomes in collaboration with Everyday Independence. So what are we going to be talking about today? So we're going to be talking about why do our PBS practitioners collaborate with external services and community groups? We're going to discuss how does this link with employment? I'm then going to throw to Tracy, who is going to talk about the APM Futures program, which is an NDIS provider of employment pathways. And then probably my favourite part of the presentation, we're going to go through a case study and we're going to hear from Amy and her mum, and they're going to talk about their experience working with a PBS practitioner, but then how that's translated into engaging in services outside of Everyday Independence and supporting with her own employment opportunities and goals. But how do we do things differently at Everyday Independence in the PBS space? I think our most significant and most important piece of difference is we have a really significant quality of life focus. So we ensure that the people we are working with can reach their goals and live their best life. That might be being able to enter the workforce, enter education, play community sport, be able to develop lifelong friendships. So there's a whole range of quality of life outcomes that we focus on, but we consider PBS more than just changing and reducing behaviours of concern. Another part of our program, which is the whole point of this presentation, is around collaboration. So a key focus is on how do we collaborate with our team members internally. We're really fortunate at Everyday Independence that we have PBS practitioners, but we also wrap a therapy team around the participant. And that team could include key workers, occupational therapists, physios, speech pathologists. So we have a whole team that can come in and wrap their supports around the participant. But we also look external and we support the participant to be able to engage the right community services. And then we work directly with those services to achieve outcomes. At Everyday Independence, we're fortunate to be able to promote choice and control for participants by having easy and quick referral pathways to external services and providing participants with options around the services that they want to be able to choose and use, and making this process as easy as possible. And we also work and collaborate with other service providers to create capable environments. PBS really starts with providing an environment that supports people to thrive. So something that we do at Everyday Independence, we work with organisations, we work with key support people to be able to provide that environment to participants. So I'm now going to throw over to Alice, who's going to talk about employment, particularly around NDIS.
Thanks so much for that, Harley, and thanks for giving us that overview. So as Harley mentioned, a big part of the PBS role is collaborating with other services, and that employment services are a big part of that. So I guess firstly, I just wanted to set the scene on why that's important, so we have a good understanding of why that matters to our PBS participants. So I'll start with some statistics. So some recent statistics have shown us that there's been no material progress towards improving the employment experience of people with a disability in Australia since 2009, either in absolute terms or in relative terms compared to Australians without a disability. We also know that the labour force participation for people with a disability is sitting at around 53%, which is much lower than the population without a disability, which is sitting at around 84%. On top of that, we know that around 40% of participants aged 15 and over had a work-related goal in their NDIS plan in 2022, and that increased to around 50% for participants aged 15 to 24. So we know that this is something that's really meaningful to our participants, and it's something that's really significant to the NDIS as a scheme. So as PBS practitioners, as Harley mentioned, our focus is on quality of life and building capable environments. So acknowledging this and supporting these goals will be a big part of achieving positive outcomes for participants within the PBS space. Too often, we're finding that barriers to accessing employment services for participants are related to perceptions that behaviours of concern should be resolved or fixed prior to engaging in these services. And it's not just these services, it's also acting as a barrier to engaging in other meaningful areas like sporting clubs, other community groups, volunteering, even accessing other allied health services around those misconceptions. But what we do know is that actually accessing these services goes a really long way in improving quality of life and addressing the underlying behaviour function. So it's certainly something that we would advocate doing alongside our PBS practitioners, rather than waiting for behaviours to be resolved, being really proactive and purposeful about getting those quality of life factors in place first. So what can we do as a service? We really want to listen to participants and identify when they do have work-related goals and support those participants and those around them to make sure that those behaviours of concern aren't seen as a barrier to accessing those services. We want to ensure that participants have the right support to help them find employment and are setting goals, employment goals that are meaningful to them, and that they're linked in with other services to ensure that those goals are then sustainable and meaningful. So that's not just our employment services, that's also making sure we're engaging with other allied health services, such as our interdisciplinary team here at Everyday Independence, but even mainstream health services that support participants to maintain and optimise outcomes that they do get from those employment services. We will hear from Amy and her mum, as Harley mentioned later, and she will provide a really meaningful example of how much of an impact these employment services can have for participants while they choose their future and have the opportunity to map out a future that they want, and that's going to be really impactful for them. So for now, I'll throw over to Tracy, who can give us an introduction to APM and what APM's role can be here.
Thanks so much, Harley and Alice. It's absolutely a pleasure to be here. So I'm Tracy Bull. I'm the APM Futures Engagement Manager. I've been with APM for 5 years in a partnership role. APM has had disability employment services nationally for 25 years, so long-standing operator in that space, and been lucky enough to be involved with APM Futures, and we've been operational for 2 years. Who are we at APM Futures? We're a registered provider of NDIS employment supports. We support participants who have an NDIS plan and who have employment as a goal in their plans. We offer a range of services, including school leaver employment supports for participants who fall into the 15 to 22 age range. This is a program that's specifically designed to support young people who are transitioning from the world of school to work, who may never have worked, who don't know what they might like to do, and it helps to build those fundamental workability skills. It's based on 2 years of funding. Not that you need to use that, but it is a great transitional tool for young people who may never have worked. In that space, we use tools like work experience as a great platform to build skills and capacity. It's an opportunity for participants to try things in the world of work, and often their perception about a particular job and the reality is very different until they've tried it. But a hands-on approach to learning is particularly valuable in this space. We also offer participants those participants who are in the age range from 22 to 65 employment supports. This comes under capacity building, finding and keeping a job. This may be for participants who have a disability who have never worked, someone with a newly acquired disability, or someone who even is in work and needs assistance to perhaps change their vocation. We offer a very participant-centric service. We do lots of vocational mapping. It's a one-on-one experience in this space. It's all about the participant, and we are really committed to working towards open employment. We're not a babysitting service. We're not a day program. Our goal is actually building the capacity of our participants and transitioning them in their time frame and at their pace into paid employment. We know that employment is really critical to enriching people's lives, and it's not just about the money, although that is really helpful. It gives us choices. It is about the self-esteem, the social connectedness, the friendships, and everything else that comes with that. And this parcel of money that comes in the NDIS funded supports for employment, this allows people with a disability just to do what everyone else is doing in the employment space. Collaborating with Everyday Independence has just been a godsend for us. It's such a unique offering for participants in that, we've got those magnificent allied health services that they offer in conjunction with employment support. So it's a really, really complete suite of service offerings. So a very exciting space to work in.
Okay, thanks so much, Tracy. I guess we can now skip over to our participant story. So we've referenced this a little bit already in the presentation because I think we're all really excited to get to this part. So I'm really excited to share Amy's story with everyone. So Amy's story really shows how that collaboration and that village of services can come together to achieve really positive outcomes. So Amy's been working with Everyday Independence for around 2 years. She started with our core OT services before moving across to Positive Behaviour Support with Everyday Independence. Amy, as you'll hear later, is a social 17-year-old. She's got very complex needs associated with her disability and acute health conditions. And she has a number of behaviours of concern with various behaviour functions. And these functions include medical functions, as well as just wanting to participate in the community and just needing some additional support around that. Amy loves horse riding. She loves volunteering, doing her placement at the Salvation Army and participating in gymnastics. Currently, Amy's only at school 1 full day and 1 half day, and that stopped because of extreme anxiety, which was leading to seizure activity and behaviours of concern. But Amy's 17, so we really were able to work with her to identify an employment goal that was relevant to her life, age and stage as she prepared to transition from school to the workplace. So Amy started working with her OT and her PBS practitioner to achieve those goals, and recently has been referred to APN Employment Services to continue that support. So we'll hear from Amy now. Thanks so much, Heather, for joining us for our webinar today. As we talked about, I've got a few questions to ask you about Amy's process in getting her referral to APM and also her engagement with Everyday Independence. So our first question, how old is your daughter Amy? And tell us why you sought services from Everyday Independence for Amy.
My daughter is 17, nearly 18 years in October. I saw OT services from Everyday Independence due to not being happy with another service provider with the OT requirements, and Everyday Independence OT has been absolutely amazing.
That's great to hear. And then how did that expand through to EI's PBS services?
Right, Amy has some complex behaviours and complex medical conditions, epilepsy being one. She also had a stroke when she was 2, so this is where the epilepsy and everything sort of comes into the intellectual. She's got an intellectual delay, she's got ADHD, anxiety, everything that sort of comes along with a child with special needs from the age of 2. So she has quite complex behaviours due to the epilepsy, because she's very sensory based due to having Todd's paresis after an epileptic episode, where Todd's paresis, if nobody knows about it, is where you're actually paralysed down the left-hand side or the right-hand side for up to about an hour. So, of course, you've got that sort of nerve damage every time you have a tonic-clonic seizure. So Amy's very behavioural for anybody touching that, and will act out verbally, sometimes push people away, don't touch me, and things like that. And in how can we say, out in the community, someone shouting, "Don't touch me," everybody then starts looking. So we want Amy to be able to be in the community and not actually, like, tone it down a little bit. Yes, I understand people shouldn't be touching you when you don't want them to be touching you, but also being the aggressive way that she is because of this, and the repetitiveness of the behaviour as well. All we really want is Amy to be comfortable in the environment and everybody to be comfortable round about her. So we really need some positive behaviour intervention, because she's at an age where she needs to be in the community, being with the rest of her peers.
Yeah, it sounds like that will fit really nicely into her quality of life goals to get her back accessing the community. The next question we had was, how did finding employment become a goal for Amy?
It's always been a goal for Amy. We are parents that feel that Amy is part of society no matter what happens with her her needs and things like that. She loves being part of the community. She loves helping people, and why shouldn't she? Why shouldn't she have a job that she feels fulfilled in, and other people get the joy of meeting Amy? Why does she have to be kept at home or kept in a little back room somewhere or whatever? I mean, she needs to enjoy life. Everybody needs to enjoy life. Why should she be any different?
Yeah, and I think you've spoken to me before about how that's a motivation for Amy. She's always wanting to help people. And when you ask her about her goals around this, and I know we'll hear from Amy herself later, that I want to help people is such a big theme that comes out with her motivations. And when we look at behavior function, having something that's interesting for that person or something that that person values is a big part of what we then create in that system and structure around someone. So I can see how employment has become a big goal, especially at the age and stage that Amy's at now.
Yes, because once school finishes, Amy needs to have a routine. You know, everybody needs to have a goal at the end of the day, as is any neurotypical person has a goal, hopefully. So everybody that's non-neurotypical should also have goals. And her goal is to help people. If she hears a police car, she wants to be a police officer to stop the people speeding. If she's at gymnastics, she wants to be the gymnastic coach because she wants to help people. She's just one of those helpful people, but she needs to go about it the correct way.
Yeah, and to get the structure and the environment set up so that when she moves into that environment, that she has the best chance of success. I think one of those things that we spoke about in one of our previous conversations was around how PBS links in with some of those employment services as well, that there's a bit of a misconception out there that behaviours need to be resolved or fixed before engaging in a service like that. But I think the way that you've spoken about Amy's quality of life and goals and what's meaningful to her really shows that that's not the case, that we can pursue that option without, sort of resolving behaviours first. It's all part of an integrated process.
It certainly does not work with just working on the behaviour, because if you're just working on that behaviour, you're then not working on the speech side of things, you're not working on the occupational therapy side of things, the physio side of things. Normally at the start of the year, I get everybody together. So all my therapists are together in one room, along with my main support worker as well, because she's a big part of Amy's life as well. And everybody can see what everybody else is doing. And funding from NDIS, you don't want to double up on therapists doing the same thing, because therefore NDIS will then remove your therapy because you've doubled up. So we want to use Amy's funding to maximise her independence in life. And the only way to do that is everybody on board, everybody doing what is required for Amy at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Team Amy all together.
Yes.
Next question. So Amy has been referred to the APM School Leavers Employment Support Program. How did you hear about that program, and how did you start that referral process?
Right. Okay. I didn't actually know Everyday Independence did this until I met yourself, with Rue, who came out to do a positive behaviour assessment. And it was amazing, because it was exactly something that I was looking for. Another therapy provider does do it, but it didn't fall into the timescale that I required for Amy. I would rather do it term 3 and term 4, and then it's a good transition from school to work. But also Amy's doing work experience half day a week, which she loves. So to tie that in to like a work placement and get her ready for work that she knows, like, school's going to finish. She's going to love school's going to finish, and she gets to work. She's going to love being able to put on a uniform. You know, that's all she wants. She wants a little uniform to say, I'm going to work, Mum. She sees her dad, she sees her brother, she used to see me going to work. We were all dressed up in our school stuff, all our work stuff. And that gave her, she knew where we were all going. I want her to do the same.
Yeah, well, that links in nicely. I was going to say, what do you think finding the right employment would mean for Amy? But you sort of described that already in terms of the impact that will have on her quality of life and her purpose in the world, and how she sees herself. And then you've also spoken about her being a member of society and wanting to contribute to society, and interact with society in that way, which I'm sure from a behaviour support perspective will also have a big impact on her behaviours of concern, because what we do know is that improving quality of life can actually naturally reduce behaviours of concern. So thanks so much, Heather.
No problem. Thank you.
Hi, Amy. Thank you so much for joining us. I spoke to your mum, so I just wanted to ask you as well about how you're feeling about getting a job with APM.
Yes.
Yes, are you excited?
I guess as helping people.
You want to work at Salvo's to help people.
Yes.
Yeah. And what are you most excited about getting a job after you finish school? What's the most exciting part?
What's the best part of working? What do you like about working? Is it because you get money, or because you help people?
Help people.
You help people.
Yes. Very good. And do you know, what do you want to do when you grow up? What's the job that you would like?
I want to be a police officer.
A police officer. That sounds like you would help a lot of people doing that. Is there anything else that you would like to do? Any other types of jobs?
What other job would you like to do? Would you like to work with little kids?
At gymnastics.
Little kids at gymnastics?
Yeah.
Very good. Do you do gymnastics as well, Amy?
Amy's helping a little girl.
Oh, you're helping a little girl at gymnastics. That sounds very good.
Yeah.
Great. Well, we're excited to see where your employment journey goes. And we'll have to check in with you in a couple of months to see how it all goes. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Perfect.
That was such an amazing video. I think it was such a great example of the impact that PBS can have on changing people's lives and improving quality of life. And I thought it was particularly relevant because it highlighted the value in getting the team working as one and working on the same direction and the same goal. So it was amazing to hear about Amy and amazing to hear about her journey. Thank you everyone today for coming and listening. If you have any other questions or if anything else interested you, please do not hesitate to reach out. If you have someone who would benefit from our behaviour support services, or you know someone who would like to know more about our programs, there's some details on the screen. Please do not hesitate to reach out or give us a call, and we'll be able to give you a bit of an update or link them with the right pathway. Thanks, everyone.